Israeli hostages reunited with their families after nearly 16 months in Hamas captivity. Israel is releasing 200 Palestinian prisoners in exchange. One of the three big stories we're following this hour. And here at home, two of President Trump's key cabinet picks are about to get to work today. Pete Hegseth is sworn in as America's next defense secretary, and the Senate confirming Kristi Noem to lead the Homeland Security Department. But first, President Trump himself expected to take the stage at a Las Vegas casino within the hour. The White House says he will focus on his campaign promise to eliminate taxes on tips. Good afternoon to you. I'm John Scott, and this is the Fox Report. President Trump toured wildfire damage in Southern California yesterday. He was greeted on the tarmac unexpectedly by Governor Gavin Newsom in a show of cooperation. But things got contentious a bit later when Mr. Trump held a joint press conference with Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass and California lawmakers. Lucas Tomlinson is in Vegas with the latest. Lucas.
Well, good afternoon, John. We're about 30 minutes away from President Trump taking the stage here in Las Vegas. Of course, one of the seven swing states that Trump won. His first Republican to win this state in 20 years. And as you know, John, this is home to a massive service industry. Las Vegas hosts some of the largest hotels in the world, and many of the workers here want to see no taxes on tips, and that's why President Trump is here to renew his pledge that he gave on Inauguration Day. As you can see with this sign behind me, no tax on tips. It's his theme of the day. It's a theme that President Trump has given all week, including on Inauguration Day.
Do you remember a little statement about tips? Does anybody remember that little statement? I think we won Nevada because of that statement, but they went out and harassed you over the tips. In other words, we are restoring control of our government to the people.
Now, John, some locals we spoke to here in Las Vegas are a little dubious, say it won't be easy to get the IRS to not tax their tips. President Trump will have something to say about that soon, and some are incredulous. Some supporters behind me are very hopeful this happens very soon. Now, yesterday, President Trump took his first trip as commander-in-chief aboard Air Force One. They first visited the hard-hit areas of western North Carolina, devastated by Hurricane Helene. Then they flew across the country to Los Angeles, where, as you mentioned, John, they were greeted very unexpectedly from California Governor Gavin Newsom. Before leaving North Carolina, President Trump announced he would be signing an executive order to begin reforming FEMA. He thinks an overhaul is necessary.
Whether it's a Democrat or Republican governor, you want to use your state to fix it and not waste time calling FEMA, and then FEMA gets here and they don't know the area, they've never been to the area, and they want to give you rules that you've never heard about. They want to bring people that aren't as good as the people you already have. And FEMA's turned out to be a disaster.
Now, President Trump also mentioned that he's weighing getting rid of FEMA altogether. He wants to see that money go to the states and have states be in charge of their disaster relief, not the federal government. As you can hear behind me, John, the music is on. We're waiting President Trump to take the stage in the next 30 minutes or so. John?
All right, Lucas Tomlinson there in Las Vegas with the president. Lucas, thank you. In Florida, police say they arrested a man for making violent threats against President Trump on social media. Shannon Atkins apprehended last night during a traffic stop in West Palm Beach. The police chief there saying the 46-year-old admitted making a series of posts about President Trump earlier this week, claiming they were just jokes. Well, someone tipped off the FBI about those posts. Atkins reportedly is now in the custody of the Palm Beach County Sheriff. We'll have more on these alleged threats coming up in the next hour.
One thing is they are saying they will not be allowed to start for 18 months.
No, that will not be the case.
Okay, I just hope you're right.
You can hold me to it. First, we have to take care to make sure that there's not getting rid of the hazardous waste, cleaning things up.
They want to start now. They want to start removing things. They're not allowed to do it now. And you mentioned hazardous waste. Well, the hazardous waste, what's hazardous waste? I mean, you're going to have to define that. We're going to go through a whole series of questions on determining what's hazardous?
Nope.
I just think you have to allow the people to go on their site and start the process tonight.
And we will.
Okay, good.
You can come back and check.
Without your help, they're only going to get $43,000 from the federal government, even if they have a half
Well, you know,
million dollar
you did
uninsured
something,
loss.
Brad, where every insurance company in the country left California. That's why you have no insurance, because you made it so impossible. People that think like you made it so impossible. And you know,
Brad, me,
every
Mr.
insurance
President,
company.
I don't know what
I'll
you
tell you
know
this.
about my thinking.
That's just a sample of the testy debate between President Trump and state and local leaders over wildfire recovery efforts in California. Trump traveled to Southern California yesterday to survey the devastation. This weekend could bring desperately needed rain, but that also could trigger dangerous mudslides in fire-affected areas. Christina Coleman is live in Pacific Palisades, where the largest fire scorched nearly 36 square miles. Christina.
Hi, John. Yeah, the potential for mudslides is a big concern right now. I mean, go ahead and take a look at this. Again, you see this beautiful view along the Pacific Coast Highway, but if you look closely there, you can see some of that charred, burned land, the hills along the roadway there. That is a major concern because of possible runoff from the rain that could lead to mudslides. And you can see what mudslides can do. I mean, just take a look at this. Take a look at this beautiful home. It is split in half during the fires, and this is what officials are worried about. Take a look at this video from yesterday. Crews positioned concrete barriers along the PCH to try and contain potential runoff from the rain. FEMA says instead of sucking up all that precipitation, soil in fire-ravaged areas can develop a top layer that actually repels water due to all the burned material in this area, which could lead to flooding and mudslides and debris flows full of hazardous materials. Also, post-fire flooding can be extremely unpredictable because of changes to the soil that are not obvious. Take a listen.
We've suffered this terrible loss of thousands of homes, but thousands of homes did survive, and now they're under threat. So our focus right now is to help save the homes that we can.
President Donald Trump trying to help out, too. He toured the extensive damage from the Palisades fire yesterday and had a round table with local officials to hear out their needs. And during the briefing, the president was very firm in his stance that California leaders need to cut through all the bureaucracy and red tape and environmental restrictions in this state to help families get back onto their feet and to get financial assistance. Take a listen to this testy exchange with LA Mayor Karen Bass. Okay, well, so you know what? All right, so we don't have that soundbite, but you heard some samples of that exchange earlier when, they introduced this story. Again, President Trump telling Karen Bass, you have these powerful, emergency executive orders that you can use. And he says you need to use them. You need to help people get back on their feet. And again, we're expecting that rain sometime tonight on into the next few days. And again, a big concern because of what you see here, the possibility of mudslides. You see that damage it did to the home. These residents here, they are exhausted. They do not want any of that. John?
And those mudslides that hit that particular home, Christina, thought to have come from the firefighting efforts, from dumping water on the fires, right?
That's right. The water, it saturates that soil and it dries. And so like you see here, you see this crumbled hill. That's what they're concerned about, because when it rains again and the water falls on that soil, normally vegetation, it absorbs the water, but because it's so dry and resistant from all of the fire and debris, they're concerned about runoff. And as you can see, when you just walk with me a little bit, look how close that house is to the PCH, to another hill. And that's extremely dangerous. So a big concern here right now, John.
All right, Christina Coleman. Christina, thank you. So 5 major fires are still burning in Southern California, 4 in the Los Angeles area and 1 near the Mexico border. More small fires are threatening neighborhoods around the area. Our next guest lives in Santa Clarita, just north of L.A., where the nearby Hughes fire has burned through 10,000 acres plus. Mark Vanello joins us now. Mark, what's the situation with your home?
We're in no danger at the moment. While we are in LA County and the Hughes fire is LA County, it's a couple of exits north of us on the 5 freeway. I can see the smoke from my mailbox, but we're in no immediate danger. And I think they're starting to get a foothold and get it under control.
Yeah, but as you know, those things can change in the blink of an eye. People who thought they were safe, earlier, all of a sudden the winds changed direction a little bit and they had to scamper out of their homes.
Yeah, that is always a concern. Another concern is just how these fires even start, let alone from the smoke. I mean, these fires seem to be starting in little pockets all over the place, and it's a little confusing as to actually what's happening. There's theories, obviously, and I don't know specifically, but that's another concern is just people starting fires, unfortunately.
You actually documented some of what's going on here. You were on a flight coming into Los Angeles, and you were able to look out your window, point your camera outside, and show people what's going on. Tell us about that experience.
So we were delayed coming from back east for over the holidays, and we understood that there was, some high winds, so they had to divert us from landing into Bob Hope Airport to LAX. And, we had heard about the fires, and, the flight attendant got on the speaker and said, "Hey, if you look out your right window, you can see the fires." And I thought, "Oh, I'll give it a look." And I was speechless immediately because, you hear something, and then when you get a visual, I couldn't believe how huge it was and how fast it seemed to be spreading.
What's your assessment of the way that state and local officials have handled the fire situation?
I know there's a lot of frustration. I have a lot of friends and colleagues that are very frustrated with how things seem to have been handled. And it usually seems, and not just California, but a lot of times solutions are reactive instead of preemptive. I mean, I've lived here for 30 years and I've lived through earthquakes, fires, and there've been some bad ones. This one is a really bad one. And I don't know, given the conditions, if there's anything that could have been done to stop this, but maybe if there were some upgrades into certain facilities, it could have helped mitigate some of the damage. I don't really know, but I know there is a lot of frustration.
Yeah. President Trump was at that news conference with Karen Bass and other local leaders, and they really got into it. He was saying that it's time to let the people get in there and clean up the debris and start the rebuilding process. Here's part of that exchange.
We're concerned right now over the weekend because of the potential rain, but we are going to move as fast as we can, but we want you to be safe, and we want you to be back in your homes immediately.
But the people are willing to clean out their own debris. It doesn't cost a lot.
Yes, and they can.
You should let them do it, because by the time you hire contractors, it's going to be 2 years.
If a family...
The people are willing to get a dumpster and do it themselves and clean it out.
And they can.
There's not that much left. It's all incinerated.
It's got to be frustrating, just the scope of the damage and the number of contractors and cleanup crews and everything else that have to be hired to get some of these neighborhoods rebuilt.
It's going to take years, and not just the cleanup efforts, but even you talk to anybody in that area, just trying to apply for a permit to get something built is not very efficient at all. So I know that the governor has signed some legislation, I believe, to expedite the process. But it is, again, that is another concern, is that even just getting it cleaned out and getting it rebuilt is going to take a lot of time. It's going to be years.
And again, as the president said earlier in the hour, a number of the big insurance companies actually pulled out, just revoked insurance policies well before these fires began, because they thought they were looking at a dangerous powder keg ready to blow. And unfortunately, that's what happened. Mark Vanello, we appreciate you. Go ahead.
It is, and I don't know the whole ins and outs. I mean, I'm not in the insurance business, but my understanding is that notes were sent to, you have to do X, Y, and Z to make this insurable, and that work wasn't done, and they're like, we're out, we're done. So I don't know how much of that is true, but that's what I've heard. Yeah,
we appreciate your time tonight. Hope you stay safe. Mark Vanello, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, the Trump administration is making strides as two more of the president's current cabinet picks get confirmed for top jobs. Pete Hegseth sworn in as defense secretary this morning after last night's tie-breaking vote by Vice President J.D. Vance. And this afternoon, the Senate voted to confirm Kristi Noem to lead the Department of Homeland Security. She'll be sworn in by the vice president later this hour. Nebraska Republican Senator Deb Fischer is standing by. But let's start first with Chad Pergram on Capitol Hill. Chad. All right, it appears that we do not have that report from Chad Pergram at the moment. So let's go back to Nebraska Senator Deb Fischer, a member of the Armed Services Committee, the Appropriations and Commerce Committees as well. So you're going to be a very busy senator in this upcoming term, Senator Fischer. First of all, let's talk about the Hegseth nomination. He was even described by the vice president as 90% dead early in the confirmation process, but he squeaked across the line with a tie-breaking vote by the vice president. Give us your assessment.
Well, obviously, the Secretary of Defense is an extremely important position in any administration. You know, this is one that should have been filled right away, and instead the Democrats were doing a smear campaign, trying to delay it as much as possible. So I was really, really happy that we were able to get Pete across the line last night. I was honored to attend his swearing-in earlier this morning at the Executive Office building, where he had his family, and a number of us from the Armed Services Committee were there for that. He's going to do a great job. He showed that during his hearing. He had a good, solid hearing. I've had numerous conversations with him. I reviewed the materials that were out there. And this is the guy for the job who's going to take care of our warriors, and he's going to work to provide them with the resources they need so they can complete the missions they're given.
Well, it's going to be his job to reform the Pentagon, but obviously you in the Senate on the Armed Services Committee are going to have a big voice in that. What do you see as the reforms that this Pentagon needs?
Well, you know, we've had a number of discussions on that. The new secretary has been very open about what he's looking at. We have to look at recruitment and retention in our all-volunteer force. We have to make sure that we take care of the war fighters, that we have their backs. We need to train them so they have the proper readiness and training and can take on any situation. We need to make sure that we have a strong deterrent so that we don't always have to send our military men and women into harm's way. Those are all things that the new secretary has talked about. We've talked about working with him on that to be able to get those things done. You know, on Armed Services, I'm starting my 13th year on Armed Services Committee. Many of these issues come up over and over again, and I am hopeful that we have the commitment from a secretary, we have the enthusiasm, we have the dedication to our war fighters from this man to get this done.
Peace through strength is a mantra that President Trump and Pete Hegseth have repeated over and over again. They want a military that is lethal and ready to move, but lethal enough that it's going to deter our enemies. Do you see that happening? I mean, do you see us in that situation early in the Trump term?
You know, I'm really excited that the president and the new secretary have embraced that Reagan term, you know, peace through strength. The secretary and I, we talked about the priority for our nuclear deterrent, our nuclear triad. That is the bedrock of our entire national security. It's for ourselves, but also for our allies. They depend upon our nuclear umbrella as well. So we're going through a modernization program of all three legs of that triad. And in my conversations with the secretary, we have really, really focused on the need to stay up on schedule on all three of those legs and make sure we have not just the weapons needed, but that those platforms are all ready to go too. We cannot afford to fall behind on this. That is true deterrence. And it's deterrence to be able to show the strength, to show the commitment. And I think we have this administration now that has stepped up, and they are going to do that.
Former South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem has been voted, confirmed to be Homeland Security Secretary. She may be taking the oath of office any minute now, and if she does, we'll take our viewers there live. But give us your take on the pace of these confirmations.
Well, they're slow. You know, this is really disappointing, but it's also very dangerous that the Democrats are slow walking these nominations, especially these nominations that deal with our national security. Secretary Noem, when she is sworn in a little bit, my neighbor to the north there is Governor Noem in South Dakota. She also is ready to start from day one. She's going to be there working with our Border Patrol, our other folks there on the southern border especially. And we've seen President Trump with his executive orders step up right away, whether it's with border chaos, whether it's dealing with inflation, prices out there, whether it's dealing with our energy security, whether it's dealing with our total national security package. So we're excited that she's going to be sworn in here shortly.
Nebraska Senator Deb Fischer, who had a particularly prominent role in the inaugural events of last Monday. Senator, congratulations, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It was a good day, wasn't it?
Well, it was fun to watch.
It was good. Thank you.
President Trump expected to speak later this hour in Las Vegas, his first visit to Nevada since he took office Monday. The White House says he will focus on his campaign promise to eliminate taxes on tips. We'll take you there when the president takes the stage. Take a live look at the Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. That's where President Trump expected to speak a bit later this hour. He just arrived there moments ago, we're told. It is his first visit to Nevada since he took office on Monday. The White House says he will focus on his campaign promise to eliminate taxes on tips, and that's a big deal in Las Vegas. When the president takes the stage, we will take you there live. 4 more Israelis released this morning as part of the second exchange since the Israel-Hamas ceasefire began, as the White House instructs the Pentagon to release the Biden-era hold on 2,000-pound bombs for Israel. Mike Tobin, live in Tel Aviv with more. Mike.
And, John, there was an air of temporary celebration here in Israel as 4 of the Jewish state's daughters are back on Israeli soil. They were forced onto a Hamas stage where they waved to the crowd, ultimately put back in control of Israel and reunited tearfully with the families that they hadn't seen in 477 days. As we tell you that, there's new information coming through the Israeli media that the hostages were forced to clean the bathrooms of their captors, cook for them, even take care of their kids. But Liri Albag, Nama Levy, Daniela Gilboa, Karina Ariev are now reunited with their families. They were airlifted to the Begin Hospital, Begin Medical Center in a suburb of Tel Aviv here, where they all are now listed in stable condition. Now, they were released in exchange for 200 Palestinian prisoners who were released from Israeli jails. Very serious actors held for and convicted for violent crimes against Israel. 70 of them sent into exile. Some of them sent into the West Bank, where their buses were greeted by celebrating masses. There were snags in the prisoner exchange, and that is because the female civilians and children were supposed to be released before the female soldiers. So there are 2 female civilians who we know were held hostage and 2 children who are now unaccounted for. Because of that, Israel didn't allow Palestinians to go back to their homes in the northern end of the Gaza Strip. That caused some friction with the Palestinians trying to march north in the Gaza Strip and the Israeli army. It went as far as warning shots being fired, creating more tension on this very fragile ceasefire. One further note, Hamas is expected to provide an update on the 90 remaining hostages, how many are alive and how many are dead. That should happen sometime tonight. John?
Mike Tobin in Tel Aviv, where the anticipation continues. Mike, thank you. The defense team for the accused University of Idaho mass murderer is asking the judge to toss out most of the evidence in the case. Lawyers argue the process used to collect it is unconstitutional. CB Cotton is following the story live for us. CB.
Hi, John. Yeah, defense attorneys argued Kohberger's constitutional rights were violated when investigators began a genetic investigation for trace DNA found on a knife sheath under one of the victims. Kohberger's lead defense attorney, Ann Taylor, claimed police never got warrants to analyze the DNA or the DNA of potential relatives that had submitted to genealogy databases. But prosecutors pushed back, saying the investigation was done properly and arguing defendants don't have any right to privacy for DNA left at a crime scene. Defense attorneys also want search warrants thrown out, claiming law enforcement officers lied to get search warrants in the case. For example, the defense team tried to question the credibility of a surviving housemate, pointing out that this housemate told investigators she had been drinking and was unsure of her memories leading up to the murders. The defense also argued that if this information had been shared, a magistrate might not have signed off on search warrants. But prosecutors once again defended the investigation, saying law enforcement used the most up-to-date information it had at the time when trying to get those search warrants secured. So Kohberger is accused in the stabbing deaths of the 4 University of Idaho undergrad students and their off-campus apartment back in November 2022. At the time, Kohberger was studying for his PhD in criminology about 10 miles across the state line at Washington State University. The 2-day hearing on the defense motions ended without any official decisions. A judge entered not guilty pleas on Kohberger's behalf at his arraignment back in May 2023. Kohberger's trial is still slated to start in August of this year, where he faces the death penalty if convicted. John.
These tactics could result in a delay of that trial date, I presume, CB.
John, that's correct. And family members of the victims have spoken out to Fox to say they're very frustrated by all of these delays.
I'm sure they are. CB Cotton. Thanks, CB. But just minutes from now, President Trump is expected to speak in Las Vegas. It's his first visit to Nevada since he took office on Monday. We'll take you there when Mr. Trump takes the stage. President Trump has arrived at the Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. He will speak later this hour in his first visit to Nevada since he took office. The focus of the speech, his campaign promise to eliminate taxes on tips. That is very popular among the service industry workers in Las Vegas. We will take you there when the president speaks. Meantime, Secretary of State Marco Rubio setting out to remake the State Department as he faces international crises from the fragile Israel-Hamas ceasefire to Russia's war on Ukraine. Let's bring in Kurt Volker, the former U.S. ambassador to NATO and a former U.S. special representative for Ukraine negotiations. So the new Secretary of State is hitting the ground running. As I said, he's got a lot to deal with. First, the situation in Ukraine. Vladimir Putin says he's ready to negotiate. What do you think that means?
Well, I think it means that the pressure that President Trump is beginning to put on is starting to get to him. We have seen President Trump's commitment to lowering energy prices globally, oil and gas production in the U.S. going up, exports going up, calling on Saudi Arabia to do more and OPEC. So I think that's one. Two, he's not lifting the sanctions that have been put in place on Russian energy, especially in the very last days of the Biden administration. I think Putin is observing that. And so he's trying to position himself now to tell President Trump, oh, I'm willing to negotiate. At the moment, however, it's not very sincere, because in the same breath that he says he's willing to talk, he says that President Zelensky of Ukraine is not willing to talk, and he points to a 2022 decree where Zelensky said, oh, we can't talk as long as the war is going on. That is a deflection from Putin's own desire to continue the war. The reality is that Zelensky has said many times he's ready to end the war, and we need Putin to do that too.
He must be just unbelieving that this war that he thought would have him in control of Kyiv in a few days has stretched on as long as it has, and it can't be good for the Russian economy and frankly the Russian population, the number of soldiers he's lost.
It is absolutely incredible, the devastation that President Putin has wrought on the Russian economy and the Russian military. They have inflation now that is out of control. They have interest rates in Russia that are at 21%. And the recommendation of the central bank would have been to raise them even further to rein in inflation, and Putin said no. They have a labor shortage because they've thrown so many people into the military effort, they can't keep up with production in Russia. And meanwhile, they have lost as many as 700,000 people to the war, at least a third of those killed, and then the others wounded, but then less functional. Even in just 2024 alone, over 400,000 people. So this is very, very difficult for Vladimir Putin right now.
We are taking a look live in Las Vegas right now, Mr. Ambassador, as President Trump takes the stage. We've been telling our viewers that he'll be talking about his promise to end taxation, federal taxation, on tips earned by service workers. We're going to listen into the president. Right now, the Lee Greenwood anthem, Proud to be an American, is playing. One last question as we wait for the president to speak. We noted that you are ambassador to NATO. He wants to see NATO countries provide up to 5% of their GDP for defense. Presumably, that would come into play if this Ukraine war continues. Is that possible? Do you think the NATO countries are willing to uphold or willing to boost their contribution?
Yeah, I've just spent the past week in Europe, and I've heard from a lot of NATO allies. Everybody knows they have to increase defense spending. And it's not only because of President Trump, it's also because of what they see Putin doing. They know they've got to do it. Whether 5% is the ultimate number that's agreed by everybody, I don't know. It might be something less than that, but it's definitely more than the 2% that's the agreed target now. At least 3.5, in my guess, is where they end up. And they can do it, and they must do it.
Well, and some of them, I mean, it was President Trump 45 who exhorted them to raise it to 2%, and some of them aren't there yet.
Yeah, we're much better off than we were when he was first elected in 2016. Back then, only 3 countries in Europe were spending 2% of GDP on defense. Now it's 23. We've got to get everybody up there, and then we got to push it further.
Ambassador Kurt Volker, thank you. Now to President Trump speaking live in Las Vegas.
And it's great to be back in this beautiful city to celebrate the historic first week in the White House. That was definitely historic. And I had a lot of help in winning. Joe Lombardo, your governor, is here someplace. Where's Joe? Thank you, Joe. You're looking good, Joe. Thank you very much. What a group. But look at who you have next to you. How can you fail with that guy? Also, Lieutenant Governor Stavros Anthony. Stavros, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Where are you? There you are, Stavros. You're very good. Is he doing a good job, Joe? I think so, huh? He's all right. Huh? Nevada GOP Chair Michael McDonald. He did something which not a lot of people have been able to do, but I think Republicans are going to start winning this state. You know, typically they don't necessarily do so good. We did really well. We won in a landslide. That's really why I'm here, I must be honest with you. Republican National Committee woman Sigal Chattah. Sigal, thank you, wherever you may be. Hi, Sigal, thank you very much. Republican National Committeeman Jim DeGraffenreid. That's a hell of a beautiful name, but I know the name so long, it's easy to say. One of the greatest people, I'll tell you, a man who's done so damn well. I don't know what it is with him. He's just a legend. He's one person, you know, we can all sort of be replaced, although we don't like to think that. Maybe it's not true. But this is a guy that can't be replaced. There's nobody like him. Dana White. Where's Dana White? Where's Dana White? Where the hell is he? UFC. He's great. Are the Nelk Boys here? Oh, yeah, there they are, the Nelk Boys right there. And Rick Harrison. Rick, thank you very much for being here. You're around here someplace with Dana. Mr. Phil Ruffin, his wife Alexandra, and their 2 beautiful children, Richard and Marlena. Phil, where's Ruffin? Where's Phil Ruffin? He's right here, so he's some legend, I'll tell you. He's a legend in Las Vegas and beyond. Phil, he's here. He'll be coming out. Today we talk about how we're going to end the economic suffering and stagnation and disaster of the past 4 years and create the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. That's what's going to happen.
That's just going to happen. And as I said in my inaugural address, which, by the way, it got the highest rating in the history of Fox. Can you believe that? That's nice. The golden age of America begins right now, but I have to be honest with you, I'm really here for a different reason. I'm here to say thank you. I went to North Carolina yesterday, and then I flew to see just an unbelievable problem and just a mess in Los Angeles, right? And I said, you know what I ought to do? I want to come to a state known as Nevada. Has anyone ever heard of it? And don't ever mispronounce the name. You're not allowed to do that, Joe. You mispronounce the name, you got a problem. You ever see somebody when they say it's Nevada? Nevada? No, they're in deep trouble. I want to come to Nevada to pay my respects because this is the only Republican win of this state in decades, and it was a very big landslide. So, but I think Republicans are going to win a lot now. But we had a big win, and it was an early win, and that was a bad signal for the Democrats. They heard that we were leading so big here, and Joe helped us so much, and a lot of people in this room helped us a lot. Special group. And so I said, you know what I'll do? We're going to fly around it. And I said, let's fly right over it. Let's land, and I'll do something, and I'll just say it. But I want to say it, and I'm almost saying it right here for the media. I just came here because I wanted to thank the people of Nevada for giving us such a big win. Well, I'll be here all day. Under our leadership, we're going to defeat inflation, bring down prices. We're going to raise those wages. They're going to go up. They're going to go up. Put more money in your pocket, secure our borders, restore law and order to our cities, and we're going to make America great again. And for 4 long years, the last administration waged war on the American middle class and everybody else. They had a lot of wars. We had no wars when I left. You know, we defeated ISIS, and we stayed out. Nobody wanted to mess with us. They had a lot of wars. We're trying to put them out. We'll get them put out. Don't worry, we'll get them put out. We were headed to World War III. I'm telling you, we would have had problems like you wouldn't believe. They shut down American energy, buried you in crippling regulation, imposed hidden taxes, and spent trillions and trillions of dollars on waste, corruption, and radical left lunacy. These were lunatics. The result was the most brutal inflation in a half a century, perhaps ever, in this country, I think ever, and soaring prices for food, groceries, and other household goods. The people of Nevada are now paying nearly $1,200 per month more to make ends meet since I left office. Think of that, $1,200 at least. But since I became the 47th president at noon on Monday, I've been moving with urgency and historic speed to fix every single calamity of the Biden administration that they've created. And this week alone, I took nearly 350 executive actions to reverse the horrible failures and betrayals that we inherited from a group of people that didn't know what the hell they were doing, what they've done to this country, especially the open borders, where they have, think of it, 21 million people came in. Many of them are criminals, murderers. Well, we're getting them out. You see it. You see it yesterday, first day. Our message could not be more clear. America's decline is over. American decline is over. We're laughed at all over the world. Now we're not laughed at anymore, I'll tell you. What the world witnessed this week is nothing less than a revolution of wealth creation for everyone and also common sense. It's about common sense. It really is. We're the party of common sense. On day one, I directed every member of my cabinet to, and by the way, Pete Hegseth got approved.
Kristi Noem just got approved governor. She's going to keep it. She's a tough one. She's a tough one. And she's going to do a great job. On day one, I directed every member of my cabinet to marshal all powers at their disposal to defeat inflation and bring down the cost of daily life. We want to bring prices down. Too high. They went way up. They didn't come down. I imposed a federal hiring freeze, a federal regulation freeze, a foreign aid freeze. Oh, that's a nice one. And I created the new Department of Government Efficiency, and we're going to have a lot of good people. Elon, we're going to get Elon Musk to get involved in that a little bit. He already is. People like him. I terminated the ridiculous and incredibly wasteful Green New Scam. Wasn't the environment supposed to eat us up like in 12 years? But that was like 13 years ago. What happened? We're still here. We're still here. Remember, we have 12 years to live. Remember that? Done by somebody that never even took a course on the environment. AOC +3. Do you remember those three? They were telling us about the environment. AOC +3. This action alone will save hundreds of billions of dollars of American taxpayers' money. I withdrew from the one-sided Paris Climate Accord. And I canceled the insane and costly electric vehicle mandate. Keeping my sacred pledge to America's auto workers. Boy, did we get a big vote with the auto workers, I'll tell you. And the Teamsters. Any Teamster in the room? We got a tremendous vote from the Teamsters. Thank you. They're pointing like one guy on it. But they voted for us in the millions, so we had a lot of Teamsters voting for us. I withdrew from the World Health Organization, where we paid $500 million a year, and China paid $39 million a year, despite a much larger population. Think of that. China's paying $39 million to have 1.4 billion people. We pay $500 million. We have nobody knows what the hell we have. Does anyone know? We have so many people pouring in. We have no idea. We go up, but we're going down a little bit now. You don't mind that, do you? Gonna take some bad ones out. I withdrew 4 years ago, but Biden immediately went back for even more money. I mean, he went back, and they offered me at $39 million. They said, we'll let you back in at 39. So we're going to reduce it from 500 to 39. I turned them down because it became so popular. I didn't know if it would be well received even at 39. But maybe we would consider doing it again. I don't know. Maybe we would. They have to clean it up a little bit. But China pays $39 million for 1.4 billion, and we're paying $500 million for 325 million. I don't know. What the hell is wrong with these people? And then when Biden went back in, they immediately went back in. They paid more than we were paying in the first place. They paid more than the $500 million. So they knew they could have had it for 39. They paid more. You wouldn't do that, Joe, right? Now think of it. They know they have a deal at 39, so they went back in at $525 million. What the hell? Man, oh, man. It infuriates you, doesn't it? I declared a national energy emergency to unlock the liquid gold under our feet and pave the way for rapid approvals of the new energy infrastructure. The United States has the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we may be a very substantially enlarged country in the not-too-distant. Isn't it nice to see, for years, for decades, we're the same size to the square foot. Probably got smaller, actually. But we might be an enlarged country pretty soon. And one of the things we're going to be doing is drill, baby, drill. Because that's going to bring everything down. It's going to bring everything down. My administration has also begun the largest deregulation campaign in the history of our country, far exceeding. I had the record for you. We had a great economy. We had the greatest economy that we've ever had 4 years ago, but this is going to be better. You watch. This will be better even than the first term. And the reason I got elected was because of the first term. Somebody said, what was the reason you got elected? I mean, you won by so much. I said, my first term. That's all I did. I just said, well, take a look at the numbers. Take a look at the numbers. In total, the Biden administration imposed $50,000 in additional regulation costs on the average American. I mean, think of this. The average American was paying much more than $50,000. And, you know, just think of it. Nobody can even believe the numbers. I promised to eliminate 10 old regulations for every new regulation. So if we put in a regulation, we have to get rid of 10. That's what I did. I did it 1 in 7. We're going to do 1 in 10 this time, which will soon put many thousands of dollars back into your pockets, in the pockets of American families. As a result of the reforms, we've just begun to implement economic confidence, and it's soaring. So this week, Oracle, OpenAI, and SoftBank announced Stargate, a $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure, which is going to be very big for Nevada, I have to tell you, the largest in history, and which will create an estimated 100,000 American jobs. Saudi Arabia just said that they're going to invest at least $600 billion. This is because of the election, by the way. And I believe they'll make it $1 trillion. I'm going to ask them to make it $1 trillion. What the hell? The money means nothing to them. You know where they made their money? From liquid gold, right? They got a lot of liquid gold. We have more. We have more than Saudi Arabia. They've got a lot. We've got more. We got more than anybody. We just don't use it because of the environment. These people are crazy. And many other companies likewise are looking to invest, but I don't have enough time to do that. And we have a lot of news conferences. Everybody wants to have a news conference. You know, they're calling up by the hundreds. We want to have a news conference. We're going to invest $12. I said, no, I don't do that. And I said, it's got to be $1 billion or more for a news conference. $1 billion or more. Just 2 days ago, because of our tariff plans, Stellantis announced, that's a very good automobile company, the revival of its Belvidere, Illinois plant, saving 1,500 American auto jobs that were previously headed to Canada, along with major investments to expand American auto production in Detroit, Michigan, Toledo, Ohio, and Kokomo, Indiana. Good place. All of these investments are happening only because of our historic victory. And if we didn't win, it'd be just the opposite. They're pulling out. They were pulling out. They were really pulling out. So they would be withdrawing money. Our country was on the verge of some of the very bad things, and bad things were happening. And now there's light not only over America. I've heard it from even our enemies. They call up and they say, sir, we hate you. We do hate you, but there's light over the world right now. They hate me. Some of them hate me. If they liked me, you got a problem, right? They like Sleepy Joe. What's not to like? You know, they'd call up. It's funny. I was told today by one of the big leaders of the world, would call for a telephone call with the President of the United States a year ago. And they'd say, we'd like to speak with, who is this? It's the head of Germany, the head of, name it, the head of France, the name of any country, it didn't matter. He would never pick up the call. They'd say, he'll call you back in 2 months. 2 months. He has his schedule. He's extremely busy sleeping. No. Macron of France, he'll call you back in 2 months. So 2 months comes along and there's no call. They say, he didn't call. The stories are, I mean, these stories are not very exaggerated. I want to tell you, they're a little bit for laughter, but, you know, it's only for laughter. The fake news will say, oh, he exaggerated. It was only 1 month, you know. But he'll say, call you back, and then he'd never call, and then they could never get him on the phone. And the problem I have is that when I speak to and I speak to him immediately, they'll say, could we speak to the president? Would that be possible? We could do it anytime over the next month. They're so used to this, right? I say, no, I'll pick it up right now. Is he on the phone? Yeah, hello, how you doing? That's what, you know, get it over with, right? Get it over with. The only problem, they were so starved for love from the United States, I cannot get them off the phone. I can't get people, if you can't, I say, I have to go now, King, or I have to go now, President. But you can't get them off the phone. They're starved for love. You know, for years they haven't spoken. They didn't even know we had a president, if you want to know. But under our leadership, America is back open for business, and it's really a big deal. It's really a big deal. And they have, though. They said, you know, there's like a light all over the world now. It's not just here. We feel a light over our country. Everyone does. But there's a light all over the world. We've accomplished more in 1 week than other administrations have accomplished in 4 years, and we're just getting started. We got rid of the woke. We got rid of the woke crap. What a lot of stuff. What a lot of crap that was. It was, and you know, these people were petrified of it. I'll tell you, these companies, they run these big companies, they were petrified of it. It was like, you know, I don't think they believed it. I'm sure they didn't believe it. Some I know didn't believe it, but they were so afraid. Near the top of the agenda for our historic Republican majorities in Congress is to pass a massive tax cut for American workers and families. Last year, we campaigned across the country at a pledge that I'm sure most of you didn't hear too much about. Pledge to take the Trump tax cuts and make them permanent, and that's exactly what we're doing. In the coming weeks, I'll be working with Congress to get a bill on my desk that cuts taxes for workers, families, small businesses, and very importantly, keeps my promise for a thing called, and I know you didn't hear anything about this, and I'm sure it had no influence on the state, the fact that we won this crazy, massive majority, a state that hadn't been won by a Republican in decades. But I'm sure you haven't heard, but we're going to get it for you. No tax on tips. No tax on tips. So if you're a restaurant worker, a server, a valet, a bellhop, a bartender, or one of my caddies, I go through caddies like candy. If I play badly, I always blame my caddy. Or any other worker who relies on tipped income, your tips will be 100% yours. Won't that do? Joe, Governor, do you think that had an impact on the election? You do? Like what, a half a point? Pretty big. You had an impact, let me tell you. Nationwide, over 4 million workers depend on tip income, including an estimated 700,000 single moms. And here in Nevada, we will have a quarter, think of it, a quarter of the typical restaurant worker's pay comes from tips. I didn't know that much. That's a lot. You haven't been reporting them for the last 10 years. So here's our deal. We're going to have no tax on tips from now on, but we're going to go after you viciously for all the money you didn't report for the last 10, 15. We're going to go after you for all the money you didn't report for. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. I have to say to the fake news, because they're going to say Trump is after all restaurant workers. Many of these workers are some of the very citizens who were hit hard and very hard by the ravages of the Biden economy, which was inflation. When I think of Biden, I think of incompetence and inflation. Not being nice by saying. I'm being nice when I say that. Yet even in the midst of the suffering he created, Joe Biden launched a cruel campaign to extract more money from tip workers, and that's what happened. I'm telling you, a young waitress, I won't say beautiful because you're not allowed to say that as a politician. Used to be you could say a young, beautiful waitress. This was a young, beautiful waitress, but I won't say that because I feel like I want to continue my political career. If you call the governor won't say it. If you call a woman beautiful today, it's the end of your political career, so I won't do it. But a young waitress, I think you could call young. You're probably not even supposed to say young. Probably supposed to say a waitress. But a young waitress came up, and I said, "How are you doing?" And in my restaurant in the hotel in Trump, I said, "How are you doing?" And she said, "Not great, because they're after me so viciously for tips. They just want my tip income, and they don't believe me, and all of this." And she said, "It's terrible. You know, sir, you should have no tax on tips." I said, "What?" I said, "What did you just say? No tax on tips?" That was about the amount of my consultation. It's true. No tax. I said, what did you just say? Say those words again. Sir, no tax on tips. I said, thank you very much. You just won the election. No, we did research into it. I think it's going to be great. But under the Trump administration, the forgotten men and women of our country are going to be forgotten no longer. You know that. They weren't forgotten 4 years ago. On day one, I immediately halted the hiring of any new IRS agents. You know, they hired or tried to hire 88,000 new workers to go after you, and we're in the process of developing a plan to either terminate all of them or maybe we'll move them to the border. I think we're going to move them to the border. Well, they're allowed to carry guns. You know, they're so strong on guns, but these people are allowed to carry guns, so we'll probably move them to the border. Yeah. She said no tax on it. How about just no tax? You could do that. You know, if the tariffs work out like I think, a thing like that could happen, if you want to know the truth. You know, years ago, 1870 to 1913, we didn't have an income tax. What we had is tariffs, where foreign countries came in and they stole our jobs, they stole our companies, they stole our product, they ripped us off. And, you know, they used to do numbers, and then we went to a tariff system, and the tariff system made so much money. It was when we were the richest, from 1870 to 1913. Then we brilliantly came in with an income tax. No, we don't want others to pay. Let's have our people pay. And then you had the Depression in 1928, 1929. I call it 1929. That was a bad time, but, you know, you didn't have tariffs, and you had tariffs that ended in 1913. But it was the richest our country ever was. That was President McKinley. In fact, we're renaming the mountain, Mount McKinley. You know what else we're renaming? We're renaming the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America. And Mexico, actually, they were thrilled when they heard. They said, that's nice. A few months from now, when I sign our tax cut into law, we're going to deliver for the tip-earning men and women who make it all work. I mean, it's going to be something very special, I think, for you. It's going to be a big difference. And with us today is Jessica Angiano, an employee here at Circa. This is a nice place, by the way, and I just met your owner. He's a nice man. He's rich, too, very rich. But Circa's very nice, and a hardworking single mother of two with incredible children. Jessica's struggling to pay for medical bills to remove a tumor behind her right eye. She's had some real difficulty, and she's currently saving up for a second surgery, which will hopefully be very successful, while also paying for her children's daycare. Jessica says that no tax on tips would transform her life. It would make such a big difference. So, Jessica, we're going to get that for you. Where are you, Jessica? You around here someplace, huh? Hi, Jessica. Oh, so beautiful. Very nice. It's working out medically good? Everything good? Gonna be good. Thanks, you look fantastic. It's good. You look great. Also with us is Lexi York, a 28-year-old cocktail server here at Circa, who's got big dreams of being an entrepreneur. Lexi says that no tax on tips will help bring those dreams much closer to reach, and she's going to be one of the biggest proponents for it. We're going to have a lot of support when we go before Congress very soon to get that passed. Lexi, where are you? Where are you? Hi, Lexi. Good. We'll get it done. And we're also pleased to be joined by Rosanna Maeda, President and CEO of the American Hotel and Lodging Association, which strongly supports this pro-worker reform. And Rosanna, would you like to come up and say a few words on behalf of so many people? Come on up. Come on up.
Hello, Mr. President. On behalf of the American Hotel and Lodging Association, I'm so honored to be here today. We represent 30,000 members around the country in an industry that represents more than 2 million hotel workers. And I'm here to tell you that the American dream is alive and well in the hotel industry today. It is still one of the few places where you can have and grow your career, starting a job as a housekeeper or a dishwasher or bellhop, to running a hotel, to owning a hotel or a few, and to even becoming the CEO of a global brand or President of the United States. Mr. President, in 2017, the tax bill that you championed cut taxes for so many working families and American workers. It helped small businesses, hotel owners in our country who make up the majority of the industry reinvest in the economy, spurring jobs and growing and strengthening the economy. And the no tax on tips builds on that momentum. And so we're so excited to support you in that effort. That's why we're here today. We stand with you to urge Congress to pass this proposal so that more than the 800,000 hotel workers who benefit from these from tips, many who are here in the room today, representing all types of jobs, from restaurant workers to housekeepers to bellhops and so many others, can take home more of the pay that they earn every day. So thank you for having us and for promoting this proposal.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Great. After 4 long years, and these were long years of a government that always put you last. They put America last, they put you last, they put everybody last that was associated with us. You once again have a president who's putting our workers first, putting our families first, and above all, putting America first. And we're going to keep America first, and you see it. We're restoring our prosperity. We're restoring our borders. We're restoring our strength, our dignity, and our pride. We've been hurt badly by this group of people. This group of people, they didn't have a clue what the hell was happening. It's so disgraceful that they were allowed to do it. But quite honestly, we're restoring our country. Within hours of taking the oath of office, I declared a national emergency at our southern border. I sent active duty troops to the border to help repel the invasion. Tom Homan is leading the charge, you know that. We like Tom Homan, right? Doing a great job. We immediately halted all illegal entry and began sending every border trespasser and violator back to the places from which they came. I signed an order that will designate the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. It's a big deal. That's a big deal. Biden didn't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. Biden didn't know he was alive. He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do that. I always wanted to do it, you know. I mean, think of it. Is that a terrorist organization or what? And we began to leverage the full and immense power of federal government and state government and enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks bringing devastating crime to American soil. And we don't allow people to enter our country and to dump their prisons into the United States of America anymore. When we see that, our people are instructed to do whatever they have to do. They can do whatever the hell they want to do. Throughout this week, the heroes of ICE have been hunting down and arresting hundreds of illegal alien criminals. And its immediate expulsion, including those with charges of convictions for rape, child sexual assault, terrorism, and even murder. Members of the savage Venezuelan prison gang known as Tren de Aragua
You know that gang? This is not a nice group of people. They formed in prison, and then they dumped their prisons into our country. So we had them. We had them all over the place. Ask Colorado, the governor of Colorado. He doesn't know what to do about it. They're all over the place. We'll get them out. We'll get them out. They're, in a sense, they're in the real estate business. They go into a building and they take it, you know? See, when you buy a building, you have to go out and get a mortgage or use your own cash. They just go into a building and take it. And they actually said, well, it's not that bad. They haven't taken that many buildings. Can you imagine that? They haven't taken that many buildings. Oh, they're not that bad. But they're as bad as the bloodthirsty MS-13 gangs that we have gotten thousands and thousands of them out. In fact, over 11,000 murderers were released into our country by other countries all over the world because of Biden's open border policy. And when I heard about that, I said, they're just going to, everybody's going to empty out their prisons into our country. I said that. I'd do that if I were heading up any one of the many countries that you know about, not just South America, all over. They take their prisons, their mental institutions, and they empty them out into our country. Can you imagine a person doing this? Can you imagine somebody doing that to our country? For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 was truly Liberation Day. That was really Liberation Day. This week, I also signed an order to end the weaponization of our government against American people and political people like me. We never had a thing like that. He went after his political opponent. Who would have thought he helped me? I think he helped me get elected, Joe. You want to know the truth? I became much more popular. I'm the only guy that ever became more popular when something like that happened. But these guys were just so inept. We had the guy deranged Jack Smith, deranged. He was a deranged human being. But they thought this way Biden could sneak by and he could win an election, another cheating in another election. That's what it was. But we won. We won. You think that was fun? You think that was easy? It wasn't fun. And investigate all of the abuses of power. I pardoned hundreds of political prisoners who had been viciously persecuted by the Biden regime. Hundreds of people were persecuted, including Christians, pro-life activists, 2 Washington, D.C. police officers just yesterday, whose lives were destroyed from chasing down a dangerous illegal alien criminal. And, of course, I was very proud to pardon the J6 hostages. Once and for all, I stopped government censorship, and we brought back free speech in America. We brought it back. We did more of this last week. People can't even believe it. I also signed an order to declassify and publish all remaining files related to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, and Martin Luther King, Jr. I signed an order that will end all of the lawless diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense all across the government and the private sector. We abolished 60 years of prejudice and hatred with the signing of one order, all approved by the United States Supreme Court. We're allowed to do it because we are now in a merit-based world. We're a merit-based country. Did you ever think you were going to hear that again? It's based on merit. If you've got the talent, if you've got the work, the ethic, the whole thing, it's based now on, it's not based on any other thing, it's based on merit, it's based on your capability. The United States has now become, again, a meritocracy. Isn't that a beautiful word, a meritocracy? Based on merit. If you do your job well, you're going to go places. And I made it the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders, male and female. Every single day of my term, we're living by the motto, promises made, promises kept. I kept my promises. It's why we won. It really is why we won. We won because of the past 4 years. We won because of that. But this is going to blow it away. Because when I came in, I had no experience. I didn't do this before. I never did this. I was never a politician before.
I was talking J.D. Vance. By the way, hasn't he done a great job, J.D.? Because J.D. went right to the Senate, and then he went to the vice president and said, J.D., you're really upwardly mobile. He said, you're more so than me. I said, why do you say that? He said, you went from being a real estate developer to the president. That's a pretty big, I never thought of it that way. I guess I'm the most upwardly mobile politician in history. I didn't make any stops along the way. It will be the greatest honor of my life to serve, not once, but twice, or 3 times, or 4 times now. Headlines from the fake news. Now it will be to serve twice. For the next 4 years, I will not rest, I will not yield, and together we will not fail. We will win, win, win. We will bring back the American dream. We're going to bring it back. You know, in recent years, our nation has suffered greatly, but we are going to make it great again, greater than ever before. We'll be a nation like no other, full of compassion, courage, and exceptionalism. That's what we're doing, and that's what it's all about. And you see that. I think you see it more in the last week than you've seen it in years. And I walked up the stairs of that massive plane that's waiting for me, that big 747, and I said, there's no way I'm going to let myself fall, because that was one hell of a... That triple fall was a disaster. I would call that a political disaster. You can fall once, you can fall twice, but you can't fall 3 times. You can't fall 3 times. What a disaster. I've used that in every ad I think I ever did. Our power will stop all wars and bring new spirit of unity to a world that's been angry, violent, and very unpredictable. America will be respected again and admired again, including by the people of religion, faith, and goodwill. We're bringing back religion in this country. We will be prosperous. We will be free. We will be bigger, bolder, and more ambitious than ever before. And together we will make America powerful again. Make America wealthy again. Make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. Make America proud again. We're going to make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Nevada. Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. We'll be back. We'll be back. Thank you. Thank you, my man. Great job. Thank you, everybody.